we have a few more things to cover on the agenda, and we had a great turnout for African American Heritage Nights, both of them. It was really nice. All of the effort that went into it, from the teachers and the custodians, the administrators. We had some community organizations coming in, providing some volunteer power, which we really appreciate, and the students, of course, did a fabulous job with their singing and their performances. Nurse Moon is here to talk about how that vision is maybe evolving, how she sees that going forward.
Let me let Vern kind of start.
One of the things that we've talked about every year is expanding African American heritage into a multicultural night to include the celebration not only of African American heritage and to maintain that component of the celebration, but also include celebration of the just many different cultures we have here at Johnson. And one of the things that we did last year was we used to have a Hispanic Heritage Night, and we kind of rolled that into our multicultural daytime celebration, where many of you, I think I've seen at our daytime celebration near the end of the year, and it is just fabulous. And one of the things that we wanted to recognize was just all of our different cultures in the building and be able to celebrate that at one event, including Hispanic heritage, African American heritage, all of our families from Asia and Africa, and just the many different countries that are represented. So we've had some discussion about that. One of the things that comes up every year is a concern over some of the religious connotation that happens at African American Heritage Night, and I address those issues with families, just a few families every year. And one of the things that you know we have to recognize when we celebrate African American heritage is that you cannot separate the religious component from African American heritage, and it's a major component of that. We never have any organizations come in advocating religious beliefs here at school, and I'm very careful of that to make sure that we don't have anybody coming in advocating religious beliefs. But it is something that does come up every year as a little bit of a focus of African American heritage. And Nurse Moon and I have talked a little. She knows I get squeamish a little bit every year, and she we chuckle about it. But the reality is, you know, when we do celebrate African American heritage, there is a very strong component of religion tied to that. I think 2 years ago we had the gospel group come in and singing about slavery, and all of the songs that were tied back to that were religious based. And I had a couple concerns expressed from families, and of course you really can't separate the religious component from African American heritage, and that's something that does come up every year that we have to address. So, you know, Nurse Moon and I have talked a lot about, you know, how can we continue the celebration of African American heritage, but also include the many different cultures. I think we have about 26 different countries and more cultures than that and more languages than that represented at Johnson. So we want to make sure that we're celebrating all of our different cultures. And I don't know if you want to expand on that, Nurse Moon, or care to?
No, I think we've done well in presenting that, except I would like to ask the PTO in support of changing from African American heritage to multicultural / international night. And I would like to see it done in one night versus two, because we have a lot of parents that have to come out both nights. And some of you are smiling, and I like to see it done in one night. We used to do it in one night all the time. And we only had one line, which went through the cafeteria. Now we have two lines, so I think we could accommodate it. With the turnout we had this past year, I think it was a lot. It was a lot, but I think we could pull it off.
I banned the dessert table, which is not an easy job. And Sally did it with me, and I really want to thank Nurse Moon for like putting the desserts on single serving plates, which made it really nice. And then I really want to thank all the parents when I said you can have one dessert. I mean, so many parents came up and thanked me for like not letting their children like make a plate full of desserts. And I mean, everybody was totally supportive. And I really appreciated that because I talked to Nurse Moon about it afterwards that we would maybe next year actually tell people ahead of time to expect that, so that it's not like me making up this rule, you know, randomly. Sorry, Leander. But I thought the children handled it really well, and I thought everybody did. And we just said, take one, because there are a lot of people here. We want to be sure that everybody gets a serving, so I really liked the way the desserts were done this time. And Sally and I did it till we abandoned post at the very beginning. But I liked that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking if we're gonna do it like a one-night multicultural, maybe move it towards the spring when the weather is better, and that way we can use the field, like African drumming, dancing, Irish dancing, in a different station out in the field, as well as inside the cafeteria. And that
And
way,
that's when we do have
children
an
from
international
different
day
countries,
in the
you know,
spring,
Native American.
which, yeah.
Lisa, you?
I did. I just want to go on record to say that I don't think it's a great idea to not have African American Heritage Night or African American Heritage celebrations. I think that it's a concern for me to, as we enter our post-racial age where race doesn't matter and that all cultures are valued equally, which of course they are. I still feel like there's something to be learned or gained from African American heritage and kind of isolating that and paying attention to that, as opposed to everything all at one time. I'm not trying to minimize the many cultures that we have here at school. We have quite a lot of them, but I'm just concerned about not doing anything to commemorate African American Heritage Month when I would love to see more celebrations rather than less, or taking more celebrations and converting them into one. And one way to do that might be to kind of have a broader base of support for staff and faculty who want to put on events, by having PTO be involved and be involved in kind of planning and execution stages to kind of help and guide and, you know, to just contribute. I guess to me it just seems like Johnson without African American heritage, it just seems like it's a big loss. It does not have to be, it should not be just the night of free dinner, you know, and I think that the substantive programming, stuff about heritage, all those great readings, you know, the presentations about African American people in history, all those I think were really, really useful and very instructive. And so for me, I just feel like we're giving up something, not just only adding more. And so I would just caution, that's just my personal opinion. This is what I do, you know, that's part of my work, is African American literature, African American studies. And so it's sensitive for me, but I just think it's important. And so I just wish there would be a way that we could do it well, succinctly, maybe in one day, maybe have it be less or smaller rather than big, I don't know. But I just feel like if we're taking the step to not do African American heritage in favor of a broader based multicultural, that something is missing. Maybe others have felt that something has been missing all along, you know? So maybe that's new to me. But I just thought that was, I don't know, I just thought I would just put that out there. That's what I think personally.
I was just gonna add, I was disappointed with the first night of African American Heritage Night this year because there weren't any African Americans involved in the program. So if we're gonna keep doing it, let's do it well. And I
Well,
don't
I
know if you
think,
need
and Nurse Moon
parents.
might want to speak to that.
Well,
Ms.
Ms.
Evans.
Randolph can speak to that.
Even for the students in the program, we had a few students that did not show up, and they were all African American. We had planned for the Park Step team to come again this year, and that day they had 2 students out sick and they couldn't. So that first night, we had a lot of things, you know, not go the right way, and a lot of people just pulled together at the last minute to make that night come off.
Yeah.
You know, I think we need to also think about the representation that we had here both nights. And I think Ms. Randolph and myself noticed that we had our support of our black parents in participation was very low. Most of the families we had out were not African American. So, you know, I don't know.
From ignorance, is that different from years past? Do you remember?
Years ago, we did have a great, you know, we have a better turnout. But in the recent years, it hasn't been as many.
So was that the case with Bolt Nights?
Say it again.
Bolt Nights were like that?
But one of the things Nurse Moon and I talked about, which, and we've had a lot of discussion just in the last week about, you know, many of our African American, because there's a religious connotation sometimes to African American heritage. We have a strong Muslim contingency here at Johnson that are African American, and you know, a lot of times when it does come back to African American heritage, the central theme in that is Christianity, where we feel like maybe some of our groups are excluded. So that's why we were looking in terms of developing maybe more of a multicultural night to include more of our families who are African American, but not necessarily, you know, of a certain faith or a certain, you know, ethnicity or culture.
I was just wondering, are there more African American families involved in the planning of it, or, you know, to feel like there's some contribution? And in general, also, I mean, if you look at PTO meetings, there are not as many African American families involved in PTO, and, you know, how to get more African American families involved in that. I mean, I don't know if you have ideas.
I have one, an idea that I feel pretty strongly about, and I think it was my first year as principal. We had a PTO meeting over at Blue Ridge Commons, and I think it was probably the highest turnout of any PTO meeting that we've ever had since I've been principal. And I think it was just well received by the community. I think we had just a tremendous turnout, and there was a lot of dialogue, a lot of discussion. People were asking, you know, a lot of rich questions, and I felt like it was probably one of the best PTO meetings that I've been a part of since I've been principal, and I'd really like to strongly encourage PTO to consider having. And we've tried the Boys and Girls Club, but again, that's still outside the community. That's over on the Buford campus, and I would really like to see us maybe take advantage of the facilities over at Blue Ridge Commons to have another meeting there, because I think it was wonderful.
I was just going to say, when we did that meeting, we all parked a ways away and walked as a large group there, so we picked up a lot of people along the way. Where are you going? You know, oh, I want to come out.
Yeah. So just so I'm glad this came up, because this has been a topic of conversation in our weekly meetings with Mr. Bach and Ms. Muir, and we would like to have the April meeting at the Blue Ridge Commons. Any thoughts on that?
Well, let me just add something in. I did a little homework. I called around to some of the schools, and also the Johnson calendar has posted on their calendar what goes on between all of the schools. And I will say that, I'll go through it real fast. Jacksonville has a multicultural international night, which is coming up on the 22nd of March.
Buford's night is the 21st, or the 21st, I think, or 22nd.
Buford's night is coming up on the 21st,
Yeah.
6 p.m. Multicultural International. Clark has Soul Feast, that was February the 17th. Greenbrier has a Soul Feast, which they told me turns into international multicultural. Venerable has nothing so far. Johnson School, we know we celebrate African. Burley Moran is PTO, has 2 nights where they have potluck. And they get out, a lot of parents come out for the potluck, and they provide
They
babysitting.
do it, we play soccer over there, and they have it outside, and it is great. I've seen the tables, so what you suggested is, it looks so inviting,
Yeah.
outside, everybody bring their casserole dish up.
Exactly, and that has been very successful for them. And Walker School, CHS, I couldn't get anything from CHS, but Walker School has community night, and that's held on, in fact, tonight, the 13th. So you have 2 of them.
do a big student assembly for African American heritage
Who does?
during
Okay.
CHS.
Oh, yeah.
It's like an hour and a half assembly, it's pretty huge.
But that's,
I do, I do think, just having been to the International Day, I agree with you that because there's so much to celebrate with African American heritage. But I feel like when I've been to the International Day, I just get my mouth, I'm in awe. It's amazing. It's incredible, all the representation, and you learn so much, and the kids are so invested, and the food is amazing. And, so it feels like if you just happen to miss that day because you're working, you're really missing something. So it seems like it would be nice to be able to do both. if
well,
possible.
and you know what I like to see? I like to see us have the children participate in what we call the multicultural. Just have it geared around the children in that talent. We don't have to bring in outside, groups. We have so many talented children.
The talent show, just the talent show. That would be great.
That's what I, You know, as I told you, we have kids here that we have no idea the talent that they have.
I know, look at Jesse out dancing in front every afternoon, my gosh, these guys.
We have kids that can sing here, I mean, we have so much talent here. And
And
it's,
we had the talent show 2 years ago, and it was really.
Summerman
Yeah,
organized.
summertime.
Yeah.
It was outstanding.
So, I'm sorry to have to conclude this portion of the meeting, because I think a lot of really good stuff has come up, and so much so that I'd love this to be an ongoing dialogue, and maybe you can carry it over and continue in April, and certainly go home and let this percolate through. If you have any ideas, then feel free to email me or Molly, and we can help facilitate the discussion further, or Mr. Bach, or Mr. Bach, do you have an update beyond what you've already shared?
I just want to let everybody know, I'll take just a couple of minutes to share with you. We're entering into a formalized partnership with the University of Virginia through Bob Pianta, who's Dr. Bob Pianta. He's head of Curry School, his assistant professor, one of his assistant professors for community outreach, Rebecca Needler, and also one of their lead researchers on preschool transition, Dr. Logan Sally Crouch, we're working to develop a pre-K to K transition program, so that what we're finding is that a lot of our kindergarten students aren't ready for the first day of school. And it was, every year it gets a little bit more challenging,
And when you say "are," you're not just meaning the kids who are coming from the Johnson preschool, but the preschool
Oh,
population.
yeah. It's really the students that are coming from the Johnson preschool program are in pretty good shape.
Right. I just wanted everybody else to hear that and not miss it.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks that's a good point, because, our 32 kids, and we do lose a few over the summer, but I would say roughly 28 to 30 students coming out of our preschool program are ready for the start of kindergarten. But what we've found, and that's just about half of our kindergartners, it's literally taking our kindergarten staff 6 to 8 weeks to instill in the students that they're working with just behaviors that make students available to learn. Things that are very simple of being able to sit for 15 minutes at a time and to be able to keep hands to themselves and to be able to how to go get water out of the sink without getting, it's really, really basic stuff that we're finding our kindergartners are coming to school. And we have some kindergarten staff here, so feel free to chime in. But we're really trying to back that up to offer a program over the summer and start potentially 2 to 3 weeks prior to the start of school, so that the only group in our building are rising kindergartners, students that we have currently registered for kindergarten, so we can focus all hands on deck with the kindergarten students, so that when we do start the first day of school, they've had 3 weeks experience, 3 weeks exposure, and they're ready to go. But I will tell you, and we're not, it's everybody. It's not students coming from poverty, or it's really students in general that we're finding that are coming to kindergarten are just not prepared.
Are these students that haven't had a preschool experience?
Students that have come from private preschools, we're recognizing that a lot of our private preschools really don't have a clue of what skills students need for kindergarten. So the preschool social worker and myself are doing some community outreach and going out to some of the preschools. We're going to have 3 open houses where parents, after we have kindergarten registration, we're going to invite these parents to come in on 3 separate days and sit into a kindergarten classroom for a half hour to an hour to see how, I always tell families, kindergarten is extremely academic. It's like your first grade experience. And none of us, that's so long ago for me. When I think back to first grade, I really don't have an image in my mind. So we want families to be able to come in to actually see what kindergarten is like. And there's no play, there's no math. It's really pretty academically focused, and our kids are working on letter recognition, counting, a whole host of skills from the work we get from the very first day of school. So we really, really want to work hard to develop this transition program. And what we know through all the research is it's connecting families to the school. If we can establish relationships with families, then that will predict graduation rates at high school. So it's really about inviting parents to come in, establishing connections. We're going to be doing outreach to preschools. We're going to be doing home visits. We've got some screening tools that we're working to establish so that we can sit down with families at the beginning of the summer, show them what's expected, give a little assessment so parents either see, okay, my child's in good shape, or, whew, I got the summer because these are the skills your child needs at the start of kindergarten, not come with a blank slate. You've got to have some skills coming into kindergarten. So we're really working hard to focus some energies there. And we know that when students come to kindergarten at a 2 to 3 year old level, the earliest predictor now is first grade. If you're not on grade level at the end of first grade, you may never be. So we're really backing up resources to do a lot of outreach and our preschool staff is great. They're a part of that process currently. And our hope is, and what we're looking at is a preschool teacher and a kindergarten teacher will work together to do the summer camp. So,
If we have an upcoming kindergarten,
well, come to kindergarten registration, we'll fill you in.
I think what's really cool about this is that I think anxiety doesn't discriminate. It doesn't, and I think what's really great about this is that whether or not your child's not ready, everybody has anxiety. The students have anxiety, the parents have anxiety, and I think this is a really, really exceptional way to kind of ease that. On top of the fact that this whole thing is seriously research-based. I mean, years and years of research, and Mr. Bach just gave us an article from a book that he's reading, and it said that one of the first statistics was that 4 to 5 year old age is the best predictor of high school graduation rates. I mean, 4 and 5 years old, depending. I'm not sure exactly what the qualities were that the child needed to have, but it's all about
It's
less
self-control.
anxiety. Yeah, self-control, less anxiety, more connections, and that was a huge slap in the face for me. Even I'm with 5-year-olds all the time, and I'm thinking
It's all on you.
I'm working on his graduation day here. So it's really great.
But it is that urgent. And the other thing I would say is, I can remember when my wife and I, we both had positive experiences with school. When we took our daughter Gabby and dropped her off at kindergarten for the first day. My wife's a teacher, obviously I'm an administrator. We were scared to death that we were giving some total stranger and we're educators, some total stranger control over our child for the next 7 hours, for the next how many years of their life. And it's for us, for my wife and I, who both had positive experiences, I can't imagine what that feels like for someone who did not have a positive experience in school. So we're going to work really, really hard in establishing those connections, getting parents in, making it a positive experience for families. Because if we hook them, we know that that's going to be a predictor of success later on.
Is this summer program going to be open to the entire kindergarten?
We've got to talk about that because we're limited with funding and staff. Right now, my hope is to have 2 sessions, and we would be looking at potentially 16 to 20 in each session. So I think we're going to have to use some screening tools because obviously kids that are in more need, we're going to want to serve through that. And some of those screening tools I think will help us identify. We'd love to offer it to all kids. But the reality is I can't get with summer travel plans and budgets and so forth. We probably can pull it off with 2 classes.
And are you envisioning this to be just before school starts or
Yeah, I think we were looking at teachers have an in-service week before the kids come back. So we were looking at 2 to 3 weeks prior to that, and then a week before school having a week off, and then jumping right into it. But we want to give kids